You want another?
I want all of them. I want to collect them all. I want Thanos' glove of running backs. All right, I
all the
want everything. Welcome to another episode of Sportslandia. It's Brian Slyke, Ray Bradley, brought to you by the Next Professional Athlete platform. We are going to be recapping some NFL free agency news. It is Monday morning, March 11th, while we record this, and the tampering period has opened up. So there are some signings that have already been made. I saw that your Patriots made a blockbuster signing of Kendrick Bourne for a 3-year contract yesterday. Yeah. So everybody's talking about that. Let's start with that. Good. And moving on. All right, cool. Yep. So big names that are signing right now in NFL free agency. Is there anybody that's really stood out to you? I know there was a plethora of running backs out there. Obviously, you had Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift. You had Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, you had them.
Tony Pollard was one of them as well, and so far 3 of those 4 have signed now. Just before starting this recording, you just broke the news that Josh Jacobs has signed with the Green Bay Packers, which I think that kind of
perturbed you.
What was that?
You were quite perturbed by the news.
Yeah, no, I'm not very pleased with that. I'm actually very pissed off about that news. Yeah, so that changes things for their backfield, but I hate the fact that they just got another weapon that I think Josh Jacobs has had good games against the Bears, even though he's played them, I think, twice in the last 5 years, but both times he just murdered us. So not looking forward to that being in the division now. Real rough one. Obviously, they still have Aaron Jones, and then what happened to their other running back then?
Would that be A.J. Dillon?
Yeah, did they cut him? Was he gone? I don't remember. That's the one thing.
I couldn't recall if he was still on his rookie contract or if this is like his 4th or 5th year or whatnot. But I don't know. But if you're bringing in Josh Jacobs, you could certainly afford to lose him, I guess, at that point. And you've got Aaron Jones as the vet there. I'm sure his deal's kind of running out, so they'll be able to have that as a bridge guy into the Josh Jacobs era, I guess, for them. I guess we'll see. It's interesting to me that all the running backs are going first in this free agency. It's like, okay, let's get our little low-value, solid guys in here, and then we'll draft them back and forth and figure out the big stuff.
Sets up a lot of teams offensively. They're looking for some backfield help. You got some high-profile ones out there. And, the running back market in itself has just plummeted in the last – you could even say 5 years. So, like, nobody's paying big-time money for these running backs. So, if these running backs are getting a decent deal right now, you kind of want to jump all over it because, not
it's great value. Yes.
They've already used the miles on you. Like, most of those teams probably don't want to touch you. So, if you're getting $25 million deals for 3 years, obviously it's generational wealth. Like, jump all over that. Yeah. You're not probably getting as much.
And these guys are still, like, basically in their primes a lot of the times. DeAndre Swift is entering his prime. Like, Josh Jacobs is right there. Only a couple of them, like maybe a Derrick Henry, are kind of on the back 9 of their careers. So it weirdly feels, for all the value running back conversations we have, it kind of feels like some good value when you can get, like, a top-of-the-line guy for, like, a pretty medium to low price. Because the other option is obviously just draft a guy, and then you've got it cost controlled and figure out if he's good. But it is a gamble whether or not it'll transfer to the NFL. So it's just like, here you go, I've got a running back.
You see them all over the league, especially lately, these late-round draft picks that probably most teams are taking a flyer on. They see a couple of nice things on the tape that they take them, but, the value just is not there anymore. So you're right. You're getting these value contracts so DeAndre Swift signed a deal for 3 years, $24 million, $8 million per year. $15.3 million guaranteed. So he's got more than half his contract, but it's not a huge cap hit, though. So for the Bears who are trying to rebuild when you already had $50+ million, like, that type of deal doesn't hurt you. And in fact, it probably opens up more now that you brought in a playmaker. Maybe that entices a couple other people to come in.
Yeah, I like Swift's game a lot. I mean, he can help in the passing game. He can help in the running game. It'll help either of the potentially young quarterbacks that they have back there. We'll see who that may be. But yeah, they've been gobbled up pretty quickly. The one interesting thing that isn't even quite a signing is this whole T. Higgins situation.
Yes, that was something I did want to talk about.
Yeah, because they tried to give him a tag, right? And now he's very quickly is like, well, if you're not
tag him.
What are we talking about?
Yeah. So they tagged him, and he's been wanting to get a long-term deal done for a while now. But since back in
Yeah.
2023, so granted that's only 3 months in the calendar year, but that goes back to the beginning of last season, though. So we're
Yeah, he
talking
said they haven't talked since
August.
March 23. Like
Yeah, so
March.
it's been a full year then that he's been trying to get this whole new contract, and I think he's just finally done and realizing that Cincinnati's not going to be the fit for him because they want to save some money to pay
They
Chase
got him.
later on,
Yeah.
and so like there's moving factors for them. They have to think a couple years down the road and how they want to structure some of these contracts. So I'm
Yeah.
sure they thought
That's
they were getting a deal in just tagging Higgins for one more year, but
This is the risk of the tag. It can set the player off. Nobody wants to be tagged. You get your freedom taken away, and there's no security long term. So it can backfire like this very quickly. It's like, oh, you're going to tag me? Then what am I even doing here? Like,
Yeah.
let's get it moving in another direction.
And this is like, we'll bring up the Bears here in a moment. Well, I'll do it right now. But they did the same thing with Jalen Johnson. I mean, Jalen Johnson was franchise tagged, but it was one of those ones where he could still technically negotiate his market with other teams, but the Bears had the chance to match it. So there was a little bit of difference between that and T. Higgins. But T. Higgins,
right.
I mean, it seems like he's ready to go. Like, he was hoping that they would negotiate a contract with him once they tagged him, and it seems like the Bengals just had no interest in really trying to negotiate anymore with him.
So that takes care of it for this year. It's like no, not at all. It turns out.
Yeah, and so like I think there's going to be a lot of teams that would be in on it, but I think you're going to get less value now. Yeah, your Patriots would love to have T. Higgins, but think about it.
It'd be two next to Kendrick Bourne. You can back him up.
Exactly. But you think about the other teams now, it's like, well, he doesn't want to be in Cincinnati. He wants out. You guys aren't going to make a contract for him.
No.
Maybe we don't have to give up as much because if he doesn't want to be there and you don't want somebody who's going to be a cancer to the team
into the season.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to ship him off as fast as possible if he's going to be a distraction. And so for other teams, this could be a big moment. Maybe you trade a fourth-round pick or whatever. I don't know what the draft compensation is. I'm just throwing out a number. But, like, obviously you're not going to get a first. Seventh seems way too low for T. Higgins.
You think it's obvious you don't get a first? What if it's a late first? What if it's end of the first round? Does that maybe sway you a little bit?
Is T. Higgins your number one wide receiver if you trade for him?
I think for a lot of teams...
I know he's really good. I'm not saying he can't be a number one. But I'm just saying, is he going to be your number one if you trade your first-round draft pick?
I think he would for the Patriots. I think there's a lot of teams out there where it's a young talent that still has room to grow, and I think he would be probably the top for a couple of these teams if they're desperate enough. Or a fantastic compliment like he's been. We've seen the Bengals use that and get to the Super Bowl. Like, it's fascinating. Even like Chiefs, if they wanted to go crazy with it, like he would become their best receiver basically outside of Kelsey. So.
Yeah, it'd be him, Kelsey, and then Rashee Rice, and then whoever they draft probably because they
Tony obviously
still got swing for one in the draft. So I mean, like they'd be asinine not to do that.
He's fascinating one to me though, and it is like you've got to give up something and sign him to the big thing. But if a team's out there with cap space and maybe a high second round pick like the Patriots or something, who knows? They're crazier things.
I mean, there's other trades that are kind of in the weeds right now. You look at what else has happened. Yes, T. Higgins wants to be traded, but we also have Russell Wilson who just signed with the Steelers, which sort of changes the quarterback trade market for, again, this is the Bears, but they're trying to trade Justin Fields, and that was a team that he was heavily linked to. Yep. So now you've got a veteran on a minimum deal, which works out well for the Steelers, kind of a low risk, possibly high reward here.
Even $1 million.
Yeah, well, you think about it. If he signed a bigger contract, that'd be less free money he's getting from Denver. So it's more beneficial for him to get basically the veteran minimum and then just have Broncos continue paying him.
It's still crazy to me.
Smart, financial move there by Russell Wilson.
Yes. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's crazy to me they took the $85 million cap hit to cut him. Like, they really must have been done with him. Like, that is their year's like kind of already fucked, like based off that alone. So
you hear about the reports that Sean Payton and him were already butting heads, even a couple weeks into Payton taking over the job last year.
That's why it was always weird.
On his own office and his own training group that was coming in. And it was just like, well, you were already creating divide with your own team. You think you're bigger than everybody else. I didn't really like that from Wilson. I thought that was cheesy's probably not the right word, but
It might be the right word. He is certainly cheesy.
I mean, he very much is cheesy, but that's not the right word I was trying to find to describe him in that sense.
Yeah,
But like,
cliched. I don't
just
know.
almost full of himself, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, you had some good years in Seattle. I think a lot of the people would say that the defense helped out a lot. Obviously, you got to score points on offense, so Russ did have his moments, but
big team
like
effort on that. Yeah, he had Marshawn
very
Lynch.
much with Seattle, it was a team effort. Like, yes,
Yeah,
Russ had his moments, but you got to play ball on both sides, and that team did it well for a long time. And then you go to Denver, and it's just like, well, I could throw the rainbow ball, not quite the same as it was in Seattle, and the defense is struggling, and it's, well, I don't know if this is the right fit, and it clearly wasn't. I mean, their first win of the year was an epic collapse against the Bears. The Bears collapsed in the final quarter, basically, after being
yeah.
up by 13. And so, if you're Denver, you knew this wasn't going to be a recipe for success. So they're happy that he's probably off the books, but they're also not in a great position on who are you going to replace him with.
No, yeah, I don't know. Do they
Are you
take
going to go
a
with Stidham? Stidham's going to be your starter or whatever?
for this year? Probably. Like, it doesn't really matter for them this year. This basically feels like a cleaning the books year, and they'll have to reset next year almost. They're 85 minutes. Like, they're so set back now. And this almost feels like this was what Sean Payton was thinking the whole time. He was like, okay, yeah, I'll go to Denver. They'll give me the power. I'll give it a year with Russ. We'll see what happens. If he's not what I want, which I already feel like he maybe thought he wasn't, I'll get rid of him.
Yeah.
Take a gap year, and then we'll be back the year after that. So I don't know if this was always part of the calculus, because it was always a little strange that he went here rather than maybe somewhere else with more options at quarterback. It felt like he was locked in, but he was not locked in. It turned out he somehow got out of it.
I'm wondering how long Sean Payton's leash will be in Denver. When it comes to coaching, at least John Elway hasn't really necessarily given coaches a super long leash. He got rid of Kubiak, Fox left.
Yeah.
Daniel. Yeah, exactly. So the coaching carousel that has been going on in Denver, it's like, well, how long does Sean Payton get? And if you draft a quarterback this year, do you give him enough patience to let that quarterback sit, knowing that the team is going to struggle? You don't want to mess up the quarterback's development in that first year.
Yeah.
I was half joking with the Stidham thing, and you said, well, maybe it is a bridge year for him, and they can use him in that way, and maybe that's not the worst thing,
Yeah, they're going to want a good pick.
I mean, rumors are right now that J.J. McCarthy might go there. Obviously, the draft is everything can happen in the draft, and that can easily change. But I don't personally think that J.J. is necessarily ready to step in day one as a starter. So if he ends up in a place like Denver, maybe it's not the worst thing to let Stidham go and let JJ just kind of grow behind him and really realize what it takes to be an NFL quarterback. Now, Stidham he's a veteran. He's been around multiple teams and started games and is he the best person to learn under? I don't know. But it gives you an option for JJ to not necessarily get thrown into the fire right away when I don't necessarily think he's going to be ready day one. And there's not a lot of patience in the NFL. We've seen it over and over and over again. It's like, well, this quarterback's not doing well. We want to see some winning right now. Let's throw in this rookie quarterback that is a deer in headlights for the first game or two. Having to learn the terminology, having to look at these defenses. Players are moving 2 times faster than they were in college.
Yeah, the windows are smaller. It varies hugely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that, especially for him, for that situation. That would make a lot of sense. I think it's, you're not learning behind the best of the best or whatever, but it's more probably for him, getting used to the game and kind of seeing the X's and O's, understanding the offense before getting out there. Maybe he plays the last 4 to 6 games of the season and finds a bit of a groove, and then they can start next year.
With a coach with Sean Payton, too, he's a great offensive mind. So if he can take time to really break down his playbook and what he wants JJ to see or whatever quarterback comes in, what he wants to see out of them in progression over training camp, the first couple of weeks of the season, whatever it is. I trust Sean Payton to help develop this guy and what he's looking for. But, it's going to take time, and it's whether or not Denver will give him that time, I feel like.
Yeah, it's curious. They've been on a bit of a coaching carousel since Peyton Manning left there. I'm curious if that carousel will stop again. They thought they had it with their highly paid guy, and now, who knows where they're going to go from there. But yeah, it is interesting. The quarterback starting early. It feels like Desmond Ritter was probably the last guy who waited a bit before he started, I believe. And then you look back now at the QB class with Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson and Trey Lance and Mac Jones and Justin Fields, and
Okay.
maybe one of those guys is going to be starting for his team again next year. Like, unless Fields continues to start, and maybe he'll start somewhere else. But I mean,
I think
we
Fields
come
is
off the
gone.
back. We come off the
Mac
back of Mac
Jones is
Jones.
gone. You've got Trevor Lawrence, who's the only person that's still with his original team. I think Wilson's. I don't know if he was let go. I can't remember if he was let go, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be coming back to New York. It's not like it's a loving relationship there.
Yeah, he's not planning to start there. Trey Lance never has really had a long-term shot anywhere. Now Mac Jones is Trevor Lawrence's backup, which is kind of funny because they've had basically similar numbers, and there was a time where Mac Jones was like, oh, maybe he is actually the best of this class. That
when he was top 100 after his rookie year, let it all go to his
head. Yeah. You play quarterback, it's a lot easier to climb that list, let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, end of an era here. We've had some good eras. It's a short one, though.
Do you hear the rumor that so the Vikings, obviously, they're looking for a quarterback right now. Kirk Cousins, his deal ended, so he's a free agent right now. But there was a rumor, I saw an article that the Vikings were thinking about possibly trading for Trey Lance from the Cowboys, and that made zero sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't understand that move. He's a guy that would have to be learning his system, a third system now in 3 years, basically, because he got traded during training camp to Dallas. Technically the third string, so it's not like there was a lot of pressure for him over there. But didn't play spectacular in his limited starts with San Francisco before he got hurt. What if you're the Vikings, are you just trying to buy low and hope you hit a home run with a guy that was a first-round draft pick? Or do you strictly see this as a gap year? Hey, we kind of have to hit a hard reset here. 1 year maybe we just don't play as well as because you got Jaron Hall as your what was a rookie last year, so he'll be
Romeo Dobbs. No, that's not his name.
That's
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs. Yeah.
The Pastronaut's still there. The thing for me, and I'm kind of intrigued by this only because what is the timeline for the Vikings? Like now, are they basically kind of resetting and rebuilding now, retooling, whatever you want to call it? Because that is kind of the team that should take a chance on Trey Lance. Like you don't want a team that's trying to do something or trying to win or trying to get better. You want someone who's or a gap year. Like even Denver would make a lot of sense for him. It's like just take a flyer on the guy, see what he's got, let him play 12 games or whatever. He's no good. He's good. You got some more information going into the next year because, those teams it might make more sense for. They're not literally trying to compete for the division or something or make the playoffs. They've got some time. They maybe just want to take a flyer. So I could see that. It is just a pure, especially Trey Lance, a pure coin flip chance though. Like there might not be anything there, even more so than some of these other guys. So I'm intrigued by it though. I will say for them, any team that's doesn't think they're going to be that good this year, it doesn't hurt to take a flyer on a quarterback and see what's going to happen. But in a market right now where why would you not just trade for Fields? That seems like a much safer, better option who's actually proven and stayed healthy and has some of these physical attributes you'd like to see out there.
I mean, I agree, other than the straight terrifying thought that Fields could tear us apart in division twice a year. But I mean that, as from a Viking standpoint, that would make more sense if you were trying to trade and at least be competitive in this coming year. I don't think you saw
a lot higher. That's the one thing.
What was that?
The price is probably a lot higher for a Fields trade. Lance, 100%. You could just throw him a 5th-round pick and you could get him probably. So maybe that's part of the calculus. That's the only thing I could really think.
And so you bring up Fields. Fields is in a difficult spot right now. Any team that wants to trade for him, you're going to have to basically immediately pick up that 5th-year option without ever knowing how he's going to play for you in this first year. That's the tricky part with this Fields trade. I feel like had it been last year and Caleb was coming out last year and we had the number 1 overall pick and it probably would have been easier to sell him. Yeah, because you have that whole year where he can play under a different team, different offense, and then all right, going into this offseason, we saw some nice things. All right, we'll pick up your 5th year. But now you have to basically do it right away. So the Bears are in a bad spot. This isn't what it
It's
was
tough.
once
Yeah,
the
it's tough
season
having
initially ended. I think the trade market for Justin Fields has sort of dwindled a little bit. Now that legal
yeah.
tampering is open and free agency, I know Ryan Poles wanted to have all this done before free agency started, but I don't think you can move Fields until free agency starts because
Yeah.
there's too many quarterbacks. Well, there's
Too many options for these
there's too
teams.
many options, I should say, yeah, at quarterback that people can
Yeah.
sign right now in free agency. So it's like,
Trade, drafts.
yeah, it's like where does Kirk Cousins land? Because I think that's the first domino, really, because he's the most
Yes.
intriguing person on the market right now. He kind of
And that,
dictates how everything else falls into place
and
because
that's a guy where you can be competitive right away. He
yeah,
could be your lack of a better term, Jimmy Garoppolo game manager, and now you're in the conference championship or the Super Bowl. Yeah, he's going to be a big domino to fall. I don't necessarily know where that's going to go, but I still think if they'd been on the Jets last year, they would have been a fantastic team. So
would have been a good
it's
team.
hard to know.
If you're the Vikings, you have to look at what Kirk Cousins did for you. You're probably not happy with how his contract played out for you because it was fully guaranteed. I've heard that ownership did not like that. They're also unwilling to guarantee most money outside of the first year when signing other positions to their team. So, with Kirk Cousins, you look at what he did, and Washington has been a mess since he left. They've been trying to figure out what to do with the quarterback position since Kirk Cousins left and signed with Minnesota. And if you're Minnesota, you have to think, well, man, if we want to be competitive, maybe we kind of do have to roll back in with Kirk Cousins. Because it's just look at what happened in the past with a different franchise. Now, there's a lot of dysfunction with Washington outside of the football field with ownership and everything else, but you still have to get the quarterback position right, and they just haven't been able to do that. It's been one quarterback here, one quarterback there. Let's bring in Jacoby Brissett. All right, now we got Howell for a little bit, and it's like there was no consistency with them. And so,
again, Jacoby Brissett. I don't need that slander on here.
I'm not saying anything bad about Jacoby. I'm just saying that that's not a long-term solution for you.
Yes, yeah, he's a guy.
Here we go. Kirk Cousins agrees to a four-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons. So there you go, Kirk Cousins. The domino falls.
There it is. The Falcons. I really was hoping that would be a Fields team. I really was.
I was really hoping that was going to be.
That would have been a really fun offense. This will be a good offense. They got pieces for him to throw to, and he's going to throw the ball around.
And a head coach that seems like he actually might want to use some of those pieces.
Remind me, who did they end up signing? I still am just. It wasn't
Alfred Morris is their head coach.
Is he a Niners guy?
No, I forget where he came from.
Okay. That's intriguing though. Yeah, I mean they got what's his face, the great running back. Boy, I really am not in the NFL state of mind right now. Who's the guy they just drafted? Who's the best running back as a rookie?
Bijan Robinson?
Yes. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. That is intriguing. They got a lot of guys down there, and Kirk's going to sling it. What was the money?
It didn't say on the money. It's just a 4-year deal right now. I'm sorry, Raheem Morris is. I said Alfred Morris. That's the former running back. Excuse me, Raheem Morris.
Oh, Alfred Morris was good.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Raheem Morris is the coach for the Falcons.
Live reaction. This big domino falling. Well, there you go. That's going to limit the Fields market a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you take away his home market, which, I'd heard he wasn't necessarily thrilled about going back to Atlanta if that was the place.
Complicated, yeah.
Well, yeah, just a lot of off-field distractions, friends, families, things like that. Not that those are bad distractions, but you're just getting texts and everybody hitting you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, that can become a nuisance. So now, I guess the next question is, where else could Fields go? Because we kind of all thought that it was going to be Pittsburgh or it was going to be Atlanta, and both of them have just filled their QB holes. So,
closed up little markets.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Denver does make a move now. Maybe Denver's the one that makes a move for Fields.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Sean Payton likes that. He wants to get going right away again.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Sean Payton. Obviously, if you get an endorsement from him, that's pretty glowing, and you'd like to send him in that direction. But who else right now are you looking at that's like, all right, maybe we kind of need a quarterback now, I guess. Obviously, you got New England and Washington. They're kind of set in that spot at 2 and 3 in the draft where they can pick.
True. It doesn't feel like they would make a decision on that until after the draft. I have been hearing a lot of smoke that the Patriots are now thinking about trading down, which is the least interesting option of all of our
Really?
options. Like, yeah,
Trading down.
I keep seeing reports that they want to amass picks and trade down. I'm like, God, if you're not going to take a quarterback, take Marvin Harrison. I don't understand why you would not do that. But I mean, they got a lot of holes to fill, I suppose. So, but yeah,
They'll
that
trade
would
down
be
and they'll use those picks to get T. Higgins and Justin Fields. There you go.
that I would be intrigued by. I would, but
You got yourself a receiver and a quarterback.
I almost would rather just draft Marvin Harrison than trade for T. Higgins and immediately pay him. Like,
Yeah, no, that's a steep hole for you. Although you guys aren't necessarily in cap hell right now, are you?
we have like the second most in the league.
That's what I thought. Yeah, so like you can afford to pay T. Higgins. It's not the most ideal.
I can, and I'd be happy to. I just if given the option, I'd probably just rather have rookie Marvin Harrison. I feel like he's got as good a shot of being T. Higgins as anybody, and he's younger and he's cheaper. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't feel like a lot of those top teams will make a choice until after the draft, because why would they do it now when they can get there, see how things fall? Oh, maybe Drake May fell to us or McDaniels or somebody that we actually do like, or maybe the trade down's there. Then we have the assets. Maybe it's like in the second round they make one of these trades. Maybe it's a draft night trade after like those top 5 picks kind of go and that's settled. And then there's a couple extra QBs left and some things. And
That's
maybe we
kind of how
trade
I'm
down
feeling.
package and then we send it over there. So yeah, but you're running out of names as far as places that need those guys. And that was a big domino.
With the move for Cousins going to Atlanta now, I feel like it's going to be a draft day trade for Fields. Like a team is just going to be like, all right, we're probably going to move back. We're out of getting one of those top quarterbacks.
Yeah. Oh, you want 2 2s and a 3? Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines, like a 2 this year, a 3 this year, and a 2 next year. I don't know. We're just making compensation for him, but
yeah,
I could see that being what unfolds for Fields in Chicago.
Fascinating.
Unfortunate for Fields. Obviously, you'd like to get to your new place sooner rather than later and really immerse yourself right away. But you can only move as fast as what the market is going to dictate. So,
only so many of these spots.
Exactly. Some of the other big free agency signings right now. Tony.
Yeah, now
Pollard,
I want to see if I missed anything.
Yeah. Tony Pollard signed with the Titans, so I think that's a move where you're not going to see Derrick Henry come back. You're going to see Pollard and probably Tajay Spears split that backfield in Tennessee now.
I like Tajay Spears.
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, well, no, never mind. I was going to say Tennessee might be interesting, but they're probably going to stick with Levis since he's on only his second year. But I don't know. Did they see enough with him? I'm not totally sure. I mean, yeah.
They're so bad. I just am not interested in their
like Tannehill's not going to go back to that, right?
And they just fired their good coach, and no, I don't know why you'd bring Tannehill back.
You don't, and he won't.
And they were paying him. Yeah, there's no chance unless you get it for like a minimum or something. I guess try it out with Levis, but yeah, it is good they have Pollard, I guess, because the whole thing was they have no offensive weapons if Derrick Henry leaves. Like at least Pollard is
on the receiver side too. Like they have almost nothing offensively.
Yeah, so at least Pollard can maybe catch some things out of the backfield, and I mean, fantasy-wise, he'll probably have a big workload because there's not going to be a lot of other stuff going on there. What else have we? Let's just ring around the rosy on a bunch of these.
On some of these signings, so Christian Wilkins, the defensive lineman who was cut by the Dolphins to save some cap space, has signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. 4 years, $110 million, $27.5 million per year with 84.75 fully guaranteed.
Wow. Jesus.
That's a huge price tag.
Yeah.
And I think it works out good for them. Obviously, they've got the edge rushers. They were trying to look for something that was more interior, and I think that bolsters that defensive line. Maybe one of the better defensive lines now in football. I think that helps them with going up against the Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs had some troubles with their offensive line throughout this year, and maybe that's how the Raiders are thinking, hey, this is how we get kind of back into the division here, where bolster up our defense. Our offense is a little bit behind on some things. Obviously, they still have Aiden O'Connell as their quarterback right now, as their starter. That is probably going to change most likely in the next what could be next week or next month once the draft happens. I don't anticipate them staying with
another Fields destination, maybe.
What was that?
Could be a good Fields destination.
I don't know about that.
Need a quarterback. There's bright lights of Vegas. That's a big stage for your second chance.
Their offensive coordinator they just hired was the former Bears offensive coordinator who had Fields, and it wasn't an offense. So I don't think that Oakland or Las Vegas is a realistic shot. Getsy was his name. He's now in Vegas, so I don't anticipate Fields going to Vegas. I don't think that's a match. But I don't.
Intriguing.
I don't know. Could you send him to the Giants? They're done with Daniel Jones, right?
I don't think they can be this year. They'll probably still have to.
They still got to eat his contract.
I don't know if they're going to go the Denver route. I think that situation will still be going on for this year, but
it's not glowing when you've got articles saying that there's buyer's remorse, and you're a year and a half into that contract extension.
Was anyone surprised by as soon as they did that? It was like, oh boy!
I think everybody knew it was going to be buyer's remorse. I think we all called them.
Oh, they got to the playoffs. Now they're going to marry him. Oh boy, I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. The Jets. I have no freaking idea, dude. Like, the market has just shrunk considerably with the Kirk Cousins moving on that one. I don't.
Good luck.
I'm trying to rattle off teams in my head that where he could go, and I'm not really seeing a lot of spots.
Yeah, Baker went back to Tampa, right? You got $100 million.
Yep. So look at the AFC East. Who needs a quarterback in the AFC East? Just the Patriots. Who knows? You look at the AFC South, they're kind of set for the most part with their three quarterbacks. Levis is a question mark.
He probably
AFC North, you're all set. I mean, you got Burrow. Unfortunately, you got Deshaun Watson. Now you got Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson. So they're out. Yeah. NFC South is basically set as well. You just said Baker going back to Tampa. They got Bryce Young. And then New Orleans, I guess you still have Derek Carr. Now you got Kirk Cousins. So AFC South is all set right now.
I love Derek Carr. God, the Saints. I wish the Saints would move. Derek Carr is so bad. He was so bad last year.
No, I don't think he's very good. Although maybe the Saints are a team now that's Derek Carr is not our future. Who knows? You kind of have to spitball here and start calling teams.
Yeah.
What's your interest level on Fields right now? You see that he can be a difference maker. It's how consistently can he do that? That is obviously the biggest question mark. So, I think the Fields market just shrunk considerably, and your compensation you're going to get for him, what was once possibly a first-round pick from Mel Kiper a month and a half ago, has significantly gone down to possibly first-round draft pick was a wishful think on Mel's part. But, you went from that to
supply and demand,
fourth round pick. I'm not really sure. There's just not. I think a lot of compensation you're going to get back now for Fields with the lack of market.
Yeah, I don't know. Are the Vikings at all an option? You think either? I mean, it's within their own division.
I've heard rumors that they were interested. I just don't know if Ryan Poles would be willing to pull that trigger. I mean, he has thought highly of Fields, so he sees that there's some positive play in there. Does he want to have to face that twice a year for X amount of years? I don't know.
You have to pay him soon, and you're already kind of having to pay Justin Jefferson pretty soon. So, maybe that's not as good of a fit. Some other free agency. Michael Pittman went back to the Colts.
So he was a franchise tag guy, and I like how most of these teams use the franchise tag, use it as an extra window to negotiate with their guy. Yes. And that's exactly what Indy did.
Thought was happening, and then it didn't happen with T. Higgins.
Well, that's the Bengals not being great there. But most teams though, they are trying to still negotiate with their players when they're on the franchise tag. Because the franchise tag that was on Jalen Johnson was going to be more than what he's making per year right now by $1.5 million. So technically it helped the Bears save $1.5 million in their cap space by still negotiating while he was on the franchise tag. So, does that go most ways? Probably not. Players want their money, which is totally fair. You only play this game for a limited amount of time, so make as much money as you can.
That second contract is kind of where it's all at. for a lot of these positions.
Yeah. I think the big thing for Jalen Johnson is he's still young enough that once his deal is done, he's going to be still technically in the prime of his career and still get another contract. So, like, it's how you play the market. You realize that Jalen Johnson is only 24 or whatever, and when he gets off of his deal, by the time his birthday comes around, I think he'll be 29. So, like, still under that 30-year threshold, you'll probably get another 3-year contract, maybe, you think, on the more positive side of things. But, that's kind of how the franchise tag is supposed to work. It's still working with the player to get a deal done that's good for both sides. It's last resort that you keep him on the tag, but I think it's a smart move by Indy, keeping Pittman. I think he's a solid wide receiver, especially for Richardson. He's going to be coming back after having that shaky rookie year, but injury-filled rookie year, because he did have some bright moments, but he needs to learn how to.
He got hurt in more games than he finished, so that's not great.
I think he got hurt in every game that he started at some point. So he's got to take care of his body a little bit more. But even if it ends up being Minshew, although – is he gone? I think he signed a couple-year deal with them, but – he's gone?
No, I'm not sure. I can't keep track of these backup quarterback contracts.
But if Minshew's still there, like that's still good because it's a weapon for him to use. He's a guy that took you almost to the playoffs last year. Like, he's more than capable to help you out in a pinch. So,
a solid gap here guy. He's up there with Jacoby Brissett.
You and Jacoby.
These are potential Patriot quarterbacks. I'm fawning over them a little bit, trying to court them.
No, that's fine. Some other names. Jonathan Greenard from the Houston Texans. This was a guy that a lot of people were looking at for edge rushing help, and he has signed with the Minnesota Vikings. So the NFC North has just bolstered a couple of teams here with Swift going to the Bears. You got Jacobs going to the Packers, and now you got Greenard, a defensive lineman edge rusher that'll be going to the Minnesota Vikings. Otherwise, you got some offensive linemen that continue to sign.
Dalton Schultz went back to the Texans too, right?
Pardon?
Dalton Schultz got like a 3-year deal. Go back.
Yeah, he got a 3-year deal a couple of days ago to stay with the Texans, which I think only helps of C.J. Stroud, just another consistent guy.
Breaking news! Saquon Barkley signing with division rival Eagles.
Oh!
How horrible does that feel?
Just shove it down New York's throat because I don't think he liked being with the Giants the last 2 years.
That's got to feel so bad as a Giants fan to draft a running back in the top 5 and then never do anything with him. And then while he's still entering his prime, let him go to your division rival.
It's crushing if you're a Giants fan.
I love it. That's tough, though. Another running back.
Off the market.
I love that for the Eagles. Our Eagles fan in our fantasy league, Jordan, basically called this an hour ago.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He's like, that's fine. I just hope Saquon comes to us. There you go. He's happy.
Yeah, no, he's good. I guess the big question for them now is how are they going to fill the middle of that offensive line since Jason Kelce retired. He was first-team All-Pro multiple seasons. He was the lifeblood of that offensive line, and the tush push. He was the leader of it.
Yeah, all those things.
So it's just you bring back a couple of people, but 2 different linemen for that team have now retired. So so it's interesting to see what they're going to be doing on that line. I anticipate filling their holes through the draft.
Easy. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do the tush push too, you need that solid kind of up front. You need to be ready for that. So that we'll see if that's still going to be able to be a part of their plans without a Jason Kelce if they're able to bolster that line. But they got Saquon there. That's going to be pretty spicy for every single Sunday night football this year where we're watching NFC East rivals play against each other. Can't wait for that.
Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, all those rivalries that we were all just hoping to watch on a Sunday night. Good
35 years ago.
Yeah.
Not so much recently. But they got the market. What do you
look at us just breaking a couple of deals live on our podcast.
It's like, we should wait until this is all over to do this, but now we're just in it. We're in the thick of it, getting live reactions to Kirk Cousins news. Oh boy,
yeah,
this is what we do it for.
I know you were interested in finding this information out. Minshew's still there for another year, so he's still there as a backup for one more year. Probably one of the best backups though, as we did our list months ago.
Yeah, he's still up there. I stand by that. I think
Yeah.
we had Josh Dobbs pretty high. That was at the height of the Josh Dobbs.
No, and that was I think he was kind of near the bottom of our top
I
5.
stand by that. I don't know what happened. I don't know how he went from starting to third string so quickly. But
Too many mistakes in a short amount of time. I think he threw like 4 interceptions in a game, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna go Jaron Hall now."
I think he should just be a rotating quarterback that just goes to a new team whenever somebody gets hurt because he's better when he doesn't know
Right?
what's going on and he
Just
just
the show and
plays
go
free.
quarterback.
He's learning the cadence on the sideline. Like, let's just keep that up, keep him rotating around, all-time offense.
Patriots are signing former Commanders running back Antonio Gibson.
Okay. Fuck. All the running backs being signed today, that's the guy we get? The guy who couldn't even keep his job on a bad team? Great.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the long line of receiving backs in New England, he's at least we have one again. It's been a while. He's not exactly going to crack the top 5, I would imagine, but okay. That's okay, I guess. That does nothing for me. Honestly, did it say anything about money?
No.
I hope we didn't give him too much money. I don't know why he would warrant money.
Saquon's deal is 3 years, $37.75 million.
Wow, that's
so he's only like 12 mil a year. Like that's kind of team friendly there. I don't.
How old is Saquon? Is he like 28?
He's not that old.
He's not even that old. I thought okay, that's good for him because he was like a franchise tag potentially last year.
27 years old. He just turned 27 in February.
Literally gave up your best player in the prime to your division. This is just a horror for Giants fans. But at least they signed Daniel Jones. I'm sure they're pretty happy they locked him up.
Oh, they're so thrilled that they locked him up. Just start taping off the parade route.
All right. Well, Antonio Gibson doesn't really.
That doesn't move the needle for you.
It doesn't do much for me.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I would have way rather gotten Swift like you did. That's an exciting pass catching, but then you got to pay for him, I guess. Gibson will probably be pretty cheap. Whatever. All right. Well, it's depth.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not like Swift was all that.
He worked really well with Jacoby Brissett in a couple months when we signed him. So that's the real.
Well, when you re-sign him, you'll be very happy. I know you will.
This lays the ground for the Jacoby Brissett era that we've all been waiting for.
Oh, I guess the only quarterback on your roster right now is Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, there was some other guy. I didn't even know the name.
Is it Nathan Rourke? Is he the other one? Yes.
I think it is. I don't.
Nathan Rourke. Nathan Rourke was a great quarterback in college at Ohio. He's a MACtion guy. He's a CFL guy too. He played for the BC Lions. I love his game. I think he plays great football. Just a bit undersized, but I don't see him starting for you in any sense. But I'm a fan favorite.
What? Okay. Well, he's going to learn under Jacoby, and maybe by halfway.
He'll always have that one amazing play in the preseason last year for the Jaguars. He was like a tackle and then threw it to the end zone and ended up making a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah. That was like the play of the preseason.
Yep. That's Nathan Rourke, baby.
Let's draft Marvin Harrison and sign T. Higgins and get this thing rolling already.
Just let Nathan do his thing.
Yeah, let's go full Nathan for you. Let's just do it.
Nathan for you.
That'll be great.
Oh my god!
Wow. Okay, a lot of things happening. Is there any other big things in there you wanted to pick apart?
I don't think so. I think we did a pretty good job of recapping what's going on in the NFL right now. Obviously, there was the NFL Combine, but nothing really stood out to me there.
People not getting measured and stuff because they're scared that their hands are too small or they're too short or they don't weigh enough. It's like, why are we here then?
All right, I'll ask one thing then. Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
That he wasn't going to throw at the Combine, specifically to throw at his pro day.
Sure, I get
his guys more exposure and looks. How do you feel about
that? I mean, I guess if that's his reasoning, there's a lot of different reasonings for why you would do it, right? I figured it was.
I talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like, you want to throw to your own guys. That makes the most sense. You're timing down. You're consistent with it.
You're in rhythm. You can throw the fly ball to that guy like you have 400 times during the season, rather than Joe receiver X and Mr. Guy Y, and then he can't throw the fly at the Combine. Are we sure we're going to take this guy top 5? So I get that it's a controlled environment. And yeah, sure, there's the plus of oh, he's throwing to that guy who I maybe could draft as well in the 4th round. That's cool, but I don't know.
I would say, had he been at Arizona State still, maybe I'd be like, okay, I'm with it more. You're at LSU. You're already getting a lot of exposure, anyways, if you're playing down there.
Yeah.
So
the poor LSU receivers. Nobody knows about them.
Nobody's ever heard of Thomas Jr. over there that's coming out.
You really got to search for him.
I thought it was interesting. Maybe that was a bit for nothing against character. I'm sure he was genuine with it, but it just seems
he's playing it up.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's kind of how it feels that he is playing it up.
Team player.
He is. I mean, he showed that this year, but yeah, it seems not fabricated, but it's planned,
cutesy,
calculated.
Yeah, it certainly does. They're all trying to get as high as they can up there, so we'll see. But nothing too major from the combine that I noticed.
Spring training has started, and that wraps up baseball. All right. We got some spring training going on. I guess the only thing that really changed is some free agents are still signing. I guess the latest one was Bellinger back to the Cubs since we last talked, and that literally is talking baseball. There's spring training going on. A lot of young guys trying to get on teams.
There you go.
We covered it.
There you go.
Hey, I got a few weeks away.
Right. Well, I got a quick new sport we maybe could talk about. I don't know. Are you an F1 guy? F1 just started up again.
I haven't even gotten into the F1.
Haven't even seen the show?
You got
to watch the show. The show will get you into it. Great show. They just had a new season I just watched. It was also quite good.
Yeah. I've heard good things about it. Just haven't had the chance to sit down and watch it, really. I've been watching other things.
The F1 recap is even quicker than the baseball recap because it's just, and Max Verstappen continues to win every race.
That is now with Porsche?
No, that's not a team. Okay, good. That was a good try.
Ferrari. I know Red Bull
Racing. That's closer. Red Bull Racing. They've been top the league for a bit now. He's won back-to-back championships, and he's already won the first 2 races of this year by quite a margin.
Crown him.
So,
crown him.
It's probably going to happen this year. The big news is Lewis Hamilton's going to go to Mercedes next year. It's weird in F1 because it's so he's still on Mercedes this year, but he already announced before the season started he's going to go to Ferrari next year. So now he's in this lame duck season where he's racing for Mercedes all year, but everyone already knows he's leaving. It's very strange. It's a kind of an F1 wrinkle that the way their contracts are and how they look to their next years. So they're already kind of thinking about how do we replace him as he's driving, and Ferrari's got a guy and he already basically knows his seat's gone for the next year. So he's kind of more likely to race against his teammate and go solo and kind of do his own thing just to prove that he's a good racer so he can get a seat next year with another team. So it's fascinating. It's been a fun start. But yeah, Red Bull's probably going to run away with it again. I'll let you know if there's any other updates we need to do throughout the year, though. I'll keep an eye on that. I'm pretty casual.
Cars go vroom. They go fast.
I like it from a competition sports perspective, but you get into it and there's some real, there are some motorheads.
I heard there was some beef last year, especially with how the final couple races ended, and it was tight down to the final couple races last year, if I remember correctly. I was talking about this with my boss at Nike. He's a big F1 guy, and so he was telling me that maybe it was 2 years ago or something, but it came down to the final couple races.
Yeah. Yes, there was a big controversy. I think it was Max's first championship 2 years ago, where it came down to the final race, and there was I might butcher some of this from memory, but there's let's see if you know. There's a safety car. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, so when it's pass or whatever, and they just keep everybody same page.
They bring out the car, everyone just goes behind them. So I think, from memory, Lewis was pretty far ahead, and then there was a big safety car. And it basically made everybody come right back together with a couple laps to go.
Wow. Okay.
And Max pulled ahead, and there was some controversy there from memory about was it a safety car or some kind of rule being broken. I've already forgotten what it was, but they were quite mad about it. And it was a giant controversy, and that was his first championship. So then the whole next year it was he hadn't even really won it. He had to go win it again to prove, no, I won that. I'm good. It has not been close since then. Basically, he's been fucking taking it off way ahead of everybody else. So But I'll keep everyone updated. But like I said, there's a lot of like gearheads that are into it because they just love cars. So it's fascinating to have like I come into it from a casual sports competition side of it, and then there's other people that are like, oh yeah, the wear of the tires, this engine, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, cars go fast, man. But I don't know, it looks cool. I like it. You gotta, yeah, there's soft tires, hard tires, blah 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 blah, and they spell tire with a Y. It's crazy over there. Yeah, it's wild stuff. But yeah, that's the F1 corner. It's going, but it may be Red Bull's year again.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah,
Let's move over to Nerd Corner. Before we
there we
talk
go.
about our movie experience, which will
Yeah,
probably be spoilers, so we'll put this at the
yeah,
end of the Nerd Corner so people can kind of stop if they want to. If they haven't seen it, we're going to be talking about Dune 2. Ray and I had a chance to
yeah.
go check it out at like basically a noon matinee show.
Great.
Interesting stuff. And so we're going to talk about the Oscars first before we get things going. Some interesting
Yeah,
ones. Oppenheimer obviously just cleaned house,
bow
um,
down,
which
Christopher Nolan.
I think we figured they were probably going to win quite a few awards.
A couple of those for sure, but they
Uh,
got most all of them.
yeah, I mean, they got Best Picture, they got Best Director, Best Supporting Actor,
Best lead actor.
yeah, I was going to say Best Lead Actor and Cillian Murphy. But
There's been a
Robert Downey
couple of them.
Jr. winning his first Oscar.
Yeah,
Did you listen to his speech?
great speech. God, that guy has charisma.
Right?
My God,
So
he was
good.
just rolling off the top of his head and making the whole room laugh. Yeah, he was great. He was really fun. And
I loved his
I
last
would
line.
love
He's
to
been
come back.
so open about his past, but his last line, just talking about his publicist, he's like, "Yeah, he's been doing this for the last like 30 years. Most of it just trying to get me insured for these movies." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Yep, yep." All right. So
yeah,
he understands where he came from, and
yeah.
the turnaround that he has had. And no, I could not be happy for Robert Downey Jr. I think he
It
has
fully
somebody who's
completes the comeback arc.
yeah,
Like he's
100.
been the big movie Marvel guy for all this time, and then as soon as he's out of it, he actually gets to come back and prove his acting chops again, and gets the I
And
almost
Doolittle,
called it
right?
a Golden Globe. Yeah, the fantastic new Doolittle movie
Yeah,
that he
yeah,
won an
of
Oscar
course, yeah.
for.
Um,
Oh man, that was good.
no,
And
but I thought he did a great job in Oppenheimer.
he was awesome. Yeah, he basically was the villain.
Yeah,
It's
like
like,
watching that movie, I didn't know anything really about that character. I hadn't done a whole
yeah,
bunch of research of what was happening with Oppenheimer, during all this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But originally he comes off as like maybe this sincere guy trying to get some stuff done, and then you realize
yeah,
what he's really doing, and it's like, well, that's kind of fucked up.
yeah,
And you see this whole arc just switch with
yeah.
RDJ and his character, and I he has said it, and I think it's safe to say that that's probably some of his better acting that he's ever done. I know he's
Oh,
highly
yeah.
thought of for Chaplin, which was some of his early work that when he was Charlie
Right.
Chaplin and things like that. Um, and obviously he's a fan favorite as being Iron Man, excuse me, Tony Stark.
Yeah,
But he really got to showcase what he can actually do outside of a superhero movie. I think we realize he can
yeah.
act.
It's been so
Obviously,
long.
he's
It's
got like
exciting.
what was that?
It had been so long since we'd actually seen him like throw down the chops
Like
and get
real,
into it.
yeah, real serious acting. Like I thought his
Yeah,
acting was hilarious in Tropic Thunder, but he was playing a character. Like that was, that was a totally different type of character than what he's doing in Oppenheimer or any other
yeah,
movie that he had been doing at that time. So great for him. I mean, just
yeah,
like you said, completing that full arc of his story from being a star, being a Hollywood son, to having his own drug problems and coming back around
yeah.
and winning the Oscar. Just a great story all the way around.
Hollywood loves a comeback. They do.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I was great to see Christopher Nolan win Best Director, win Best Picture.
Yep.
I think it's 15 years after The Dark Knight didn't get nominated for anything, and they basically changed how all of that stuff worked for the Oscars
Yeah, I
in
think
the
the only
future.
Oscar they won was Best Supporting
Field.
Actor, and that was for Heath.
Yes, yeah, posthumously. So yeah, it was awesome to see it get all the flowers it's deserved, and it was also a huge movie, and
Yep.
the whole Barbenheimer thing was in full effect. They sang the Ken song Ryan Gosling did, which was quite fun in his bedazzled pink suit. He started it off like a close shot with like the hat down, and then he starts singing, and then he leans forward, and Margot Robbie's right there, so it's like it all kind of lined up perfectly. Yeah, it was really good to see Godzilla minus one
Yep.
for best visual effects with like the budget that it had, everybody, the whole people that they had there when they cut to them, they all started cheering and they were all holding little Godzillas.
I saw. Did you see their shoes?
Their shoes were awesome too.
Yes,
They had
they
little
had the like, Godzilla hand on the bottom of the heel.
Godzilla's like little claws. Oh my god! Couldn't be more happy for them and for that movie to be recognized, and hopefully more people see it. It's fantastic.
The other one, I thought they won for best visual effects, and I think they had a couple other ones too. The one I thought that you would probably really like, just because I know you're anime type guy, but the Boy and the Heron won as well for best animated feature.
But okay.
I wanted to hear your thoughts about it. I haven't seen the movie. I figured you might have seen the movie. What are your thoughts on all that?
Unfortunately, I have not. I ended up seeing Godzilla -1 instead, and then I think
still not
now Boy.
Still not.
Yeah. Yes, but the Boy and the Heron hasn't been in theaters I've seen, and it's not quite on anything yet, so I still haven't actually seen it yet. I think it's crazy that Across the Spider-Verse didn't win this, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. That was my favorite movie of the year. The animation that it does in that movie is beyond anything that I've ever seen, whether it just be like the colorful backdrops in Gwen's place, or how it like mixes with emotions and how those like backgrounds kind of intensify and become like abstract art, or just like the action in that stuff, like the whole Spider-Man escape scene, and the fact that it's a fantastic movie. Like it's Studio Ghibli. At the time, it seemed like it was Miyazaki's last movie, so I can totally get that. And I'm,
Ghibli or Ghibli?
Oh my god, I actually don't know. Every time I hear it, it's different.
I always thought it was Ghibli, but I have no idea. I've never paid enough attention, which is on me. But
I've listened to a lot of different like high profile people, and I've heard it both ways. That's actually genuinely I've heard it both ways. So I'm not exactly sure. I could be saying it wrong, and it's it's Japanese.
But anyways, so it's supposed to be this person's last film with them, though, right?
Yeah, and he's the guy. He's the big guy over there. He made Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away and Totoro. So I can get that, and it is a movie from what I've heard about kind of aging and death and stuff like that. So like. Probably right up the alley for the Academy, but it's crazy to me that Spider-Verse didn't win this. Absolutely insane. Miyazaki was asleep. He probably didn't even notice he won this Oscar. He's already won other Oscars for other.
I saw a meme where it was. He like woke up to the news and then just rolled over.
Exactly, that's what I thought too. So I do think it's a little crazy Spider-Verse didn't win. Although if a movie was going to take it, if it's a Studio Ghibli movie, that's pretty understandable as well.
I figured you would be okay with it only because of where it came from.
If it had been
a huge Spider-Verse fan, so like you talked about that glowingly once you saw it in theaters. And you saw it multiple times, didn't you?
I did. There was a baby in my first.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
ruined the first. It came on Netflix. I watched it again. It was my #1 movie of last year, followed by Oppenheimer. So I will say, if fucking Elemental had won, I would have lost my mind. So I'm glad it wasn't that derivative looking thing. I did see the Nimona is the other one nominated from Netflix. That was pretty good. I watched that. It was pretty good. It's like a shape-shifting girl and a knight in a medieval fantasy land. It was kind of fun. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, a lot of Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer won for cinematography as well. The one movie I want to see on here that actually won a lot of different things, I almost watched it last night, ironically, but then I didn't, is Poor Things with Emma Stone.
I was about to say, that was one that I don't really know much about. I know it got nominated for a lot of awards, I think 11.
Emma Stone won for Best Actress, kind of upsetting the Lily Gladstone, I think her name is, from Killers of the Flower Moon, which I did see, and she was good, so I want to see that. It also won for like some pretty big awards. I feel like it won for production design and costume design and makeup and hairstyling. So like, and from the footage I've seen of that movie, it has a very specific kind of look to it. So I'm very interested in seeing it. I've heard it's like kind of a wacky Frankenstein adaptation sort of a thing. So we'll kind of see where that ends up. But it looks awesome, and I've heard great stuff about Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe in that movie as well. So I'm excited to see that, but I can't really give my own thoughts on it. But it's pretty impressive that it won in those categories. It looked like Barbie got shut out. I feel like production design was one of the ones that maybe could have won. I mean, I think it won for the song, but
they did win for like best original song. It was by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell. But yeah, they were shut out in a lot of things. I thought production design. I love the simplicity of the Barbie movie, like how they set everything up and
great
set design.
It sold the whole movie, yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm not like upset that they didn't win. I haven't seen anything about Poor Things.
Yeah, I'll have to see that to know, but it felt like that was their best chance at kind of winning something.
Exactly. Yeah, like you knew it wasn't going to win Best Picture or anything like that.
No.
Like it just wasn't that type of film. But yeah, you definitely thought set production and everything else that would probably be right up their alley. And unfortunately for them, Poor Things just did a better job, I guess.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see that, and it is just streaming on Hulu now, so it is available to watch for a lot of people if
perfect.
they're out there looking for it. That's kind of what I was waiting for to see if I could get on there. I think that's most of the big Oscars stuff, though. Great for Oppenheimer.
All right, this is everybody's time to. If you haven't seen it yet, hit the pause button.
What are you doing?
Or you know what? We still want those views, so maybe just scroll to the end and get us that view there. That way we don't spoil anything for you, as we are going to talk a little bit about Dune 2. $180 million deal for Kirk for 4 years.
Oh, God. I thought that was the box office for Dune 2.
That would have been incredibly low.
That's about what it got worldwide the first weekend, I think.
180? Really?
Something. Maybe it wasn't worldwide. I mean, that's pretty good nowadays.
I guess.
This isn't the age of Marvel. This is post-COVID we're talking.
Well, it made a solid $20 million at the Chinese box office.
Well, okay. That seems incredibly low, actually, for the Chinese box office.
It has already surpassed Dune 1.
I did see that.
$67 million. The film needs $500 million to break even, aiming for a projected $700 million.
Okay, so it made $80 million domestic opening weekend. 180 opening globally. So yeah, Dune 2 and Kirk Cousins, they got a lot in common. Turns out. Who would have guessed? Yeah, what do you think of Dune 1 real quick before that? We both rewatched it. I guess you had watched it.
I watched it for the first time, yeah. So
I rewatched it.
Figured it was going to be like this space sort of epic.
It's called Star Wars for adults.
Yeah, I was going to say it was similar to gave me that Star Wars feel of world building and everything else. I thought I was on Mos Espa for a while. But here's what I told you. I told you when we got to the theater to watch the second one that it was a long movie, but it moved at a good pace. Where you didn't feel like it was necessarily dragging on, even though it was world building, and so it's not necessarily the most exciting stuff that is happening. I still think it did a solid job of setting up what was to come.
A lot of setup, a lot of good stuff there. Yeah,
not a lot of action or anything like that. A lot of high-profile actors. I think that sort of helped me stay engaged in the first one at times. I'm a big Oscar Isaac guy. Obviously, he's in a whole bunch of fucking science fiction movies now. He's just in every single thing possible in science fiction.
Yeah, they did bring it. They brought him off the bench to do a hot 20 minutes there. He had some good run.
Yep, exactly. I like Josh Brolin too, so seeing him kind of roll into this one.
Javier Bardem's in there for 2 seconds in the first one, as is Zendaya.
Yeah, exactly. Which I thought was the biggest tease because she was on the posters and everything, and I think she says maybe a line, and it comes in the final 30 minutes. Otherwise, she just shows up in dreams and.
Exactly.
That was a bit misleading for me. Even my wife said, I was I think I'd be a little bit more interested if there was more of Zendaya.
Oh boy, she would love Dune 2.
Yeah, I was going to say, just wait till you see Dune 2, babe. She's all over it.
She got her chance to shine in this one. That's
but
for sure.
I liked Dune 1. I didn't have, it's not my favorite movie or anything like that. I think for what it was.
It's not even my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie, but it is quite good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it was a solid flick to help set up everything. Like I said, it's world building. You said it too. It is a giant world building movie. That they had already tried to do this movie in the past twice. One actually got made. So it was kind of what are we going to be doing here? And I think the first one came out. It wasn't Dune Part 1. It was just Dune.
No.
So you weren't really sure what you're going to expect, and so the first one just ends right after he. Forgive me. I was going to say Fennec, but I can't remember what the group people. Fremen. There we go. He meets the Fremen, and then it's just all right, movie's done, and you're like, well, shit. Just when it was about to get good, it just as he's about to go do everything that he's supposed to do.
I think the last line in the movie is, "This is just the beginning."
Yep.
And then the movie ends.
And then the movie ends.
So
yeah,
it is very clear at that point, like, oh, they better do another one of these.
Yeah, like you hope that one did well enough that you were going to get a second one. And we were just looking at the numbers. It has to make $800 million to break even for Dune 2 to, it's been getting great reviews.
I think it has a pretty good chance. I think it can, but it's lofty, and it is the way this one ends. Kind of feels a little similar to the last one, and not to that degree, but certainly it's like, oh, there's a whole nother big thing about to go on here, and it would be a shame if we don't have another chance to kind of finish this out, because there are still a lot of threads up in the air, and it did kind of close the story on the Arrakis stuff and the comeback and all the family, but there's a whole bunch more stuff that seems like they're setting up.
Yeah. So when was this book published?
I mean, it's
an old book, right?
I believe it's the 60s. Hold on, I've actually got a copy. I'll go grab. This is my dad's copy of Dune.
Oh, your dad's copy. Nice.
Original Frank Herbert. Oh boy. Where is this? Signed by Frank Herbert.
Oh shit.
Yeah. What do we got here? There's got to be a number. 1965.
All right. 1965. This
Muad'Dib. Listen on Magib. Javier Bardem in this was very funny, I found.
I thought he did a great job in this movie. Granted,
he was great.
He didn't understand half the dialogue because they didn't give us subtitles, but
yeah.
And that's fine. I think we can kind of all pick it up on context on what they're kind of talking about.
It was a lot easier on the rewatch when I had subtitles to be like, oh, this is specifically that. This is this. Yeah. The fucking guy, the main character is like 6 names in this thing. Like it can be confusing. A lot of them I understood. The one of the last ones, they were like, oh, he is the Shaka al-Laki or from the south, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about there, my guy. I got Paul, I got Usul, I got Lisan al-Magib, I got the Muad'Dib.
Yeah. I didn't know what Zendaya's name was. I thought it was Johnny. It's Chani, like CH.
Yeah.
And I was just like, are you just saying Johnny? I didn't understand that. That just Oh, Aaron Jones is being released.
Okay. Well, there you go.
That answers that question.
There you go.
The Packers backfield. Not we're going back in the podcast here.
I'd rather have him than Antonio Gibson. Yeah, Dune 2.
I'm not a religious person in any way. And this movie really laid into the fundamental religion aspect of things for these people. Obviously it's not the traditional like God and Jesus, but there were aspects where it hit a little too close to home, and when I say that, I just mean like real world issues on a book that was made in 1965. Like, I'm sure there's some adaptations to where, like, Dennis is trying to connect some real world stuff to what's happening right now and in his film and stuff, but like, man, there were some heavy things in there with their fundamentalist people.
And this is, I mean, at the time, and this is very much sort of a comment on the Middle East.
And 100%. That's the first thing I thought of.
And the oil, so that is like there are
that's
very clear parallels. They're coming to this planet and mining it, and this entire race of entirely white people against the Fremen, who are the diverse culture people, the natives. Yeah, there is all those kind of elements built up in there, and then, but yeah, and then it does the classic kind of hero's journey, chosen one. Thing that we're used to in a lot of medias. The thing that's always been fascinating about me to this is it very much is like almost a deconstruction of that, and it is very much like, no, that's like the white man savior thing is not fucking cool, and it's not good. And actually, this guy like might actually be the villain, and he's not even into it. Like most of the whole movie, he basically kind of knows, like, hey, I can kind of take this thing over and go crazy with it if I really lean in to how much they believe.
But he's like fighting so hard.
But I don't want to do that because I know if I do that, it'll lead to genocide and a war and death. And I don't want to do that. if we can retake the planet based on just like you and me kind of give and go, like doing a little bit of I know the Harkonnens, you guys know the desert. Let's just take this back normal. I'm cool with that. As soon as it gets all above the head and gets religious with it, I don't believe that. So
Yeah.
most of the movie is him being like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. If I do this, shit's gonna get bad. And then eventually they're like, no, you kind of got to do this. They just bombed our home. And he's like, okay, all right. And then, yeah, Zendaya is like, wow, how could you become this evil Messiah man? It's like, I told you, I didn't want to do this.
I would say that even though the Harkonnens are supposed to be the main villains in this movie, I would say his
Yeah.
mom is kind of one of the biggest villains in this movie. She is
Ooh,
stone cold psychotic at times.
conniving. Yeah.
She obviously is very manipulative. She even said it,
Oh my
you know,
God.
it was an internal monologue thing, I think, but she was just like, you got to start with the weak. And it was just like, oh, gee, I think I've heard this before. In
Yes.
any historical context ever, let me start with the weak-minded and have them spread the word. And
It was like, it was the ones who were afraid of us. It was like, we go after them and use that fear,
yep,
kind of break in early.
and
Well,
then
her whole thing I found fascinating where she drinks the crazy stuff and like is poisoned, and then unborn baby basically becomes like a character in the movie.
she was
And
already a
when,
character before that, though. She had
well,
already
yeah,
been
the whole
talking to the
thing opens
mom,
up
talking to
too.
Timothy Chalamet,
I
and
love that shit. Like the fact that she's walking around like telepathically talking to her little baby, and then like correlating that, and they're like forming plans together. I was like, this is so fascinating. I love this, but I will say I don't quite understand the timeline. Like it's a little wild to me to think like this all happened, I guess, before she even gave birth. Like to me, it's like this. I thought this is like a 10-year situation.
oh, I thought
It
this
feels
happened
like.
like over a year span because
Well,
like
that's like, I think that's what we're supposed to understand because she's still pregnant.
she's still pregnant. And they say some lines throughout the movie like when he
Yeah,
first gets to Fremen or whatever, and he's trying to like I think they sent him out on his own, and that's when
yes,
Zendaya joins him, and it was like they expect you to fail or whatever. You're not going to make it to
yeah,
summer, so like you can assume that it takes a couple months for him to do whatever
yeah,
he's doing, but it's still within a context of a year.
yeah. To me, I just it this would work a lot better. I feel like if it was like 10 years. Like I don't doesn't make any sense to me as 1 year. If anything, it's like I almost feel like I don't know. Now I'm just making up my own headcanon, but like when I feel like once she has the baby talking to her and it's all this weird magical stuff, I almost feel like that baby should never be born. That's just like the state of that character now is like,
Forever pregnant.
yeah, like you drank the poison, it didn't kill him, but you're never giving birth. This is just how it is now. And you've got like this kind of two mind thing going on. You can talk to each
They
other
did
and you can
show like
respect those.
different ages of the baby in the womb though, because it starts out as this tiny
Yeah.
little fetus, like when she had that poison, and then near the end of the movie, it's almost like a full grown baby. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
I just it makes a lot more sense to me in my head if this is years. This is not a year. There's no way this could have all happened in a year, I feel, with kind of the way they tell the story and how elongated and this he comes in, he does the thing, he learns the skills, he becomes one of them, then they fall in love, then they go on and fight this war and it's not really working, and then they have to turn to the people in the South. It's like that is like a huge landscape of time, I feel like, that kind of gets smashed in there a little bit. But what are you gonna do? A lot of this did kind of like because I think one of the things I said when I watched that was like that was a dense movie. A lot of the lore in here is just like it does kind of feel like a lot of the times like they're adapting like just huge chunks of this
yeah,
guy into a couple little scenes, and they do a really good job of the world building, I still feel like, in this, but there's just a lot for them to do. There's so much, and they have to introduce
all
this
these
new evil
characters. And,
nephew guy with in the crazy cool looking. That was maybe my favorite looking scene. Although I will like this movie looked incredible,
mhm.
almost the whole time. The visuals were awesome. The audio and the score, like the huge bombastic like chanting stuff
Yeah,
that he's doing. That in a lot of his other movies, he's got like this giant kind of bombastic score, and it works really well in this. When they come in, they're like, and it's all this crazy stuff and these upward shots of the dune. The shot where he's riding the sandworm and the dune's like collapsing in the middle, and they're shooting it as he's running
yeah.
across. Like the movie looks incredible and sounds incredible, and is mostly cast with an incredible cast. Here's my one big gripe. I just could not at all get there with Christopher Walken.
Oh my god! And he still sounded the exact same too. He didn't even try to change his voice.
I never bought it. It ripped me out of the movie every single time because it's like, first of all, like there's famous man Christopher Walken. Second of all, there's famous Christopher Walken man doing obviously his own voice.
Yeah.
But the Christopher Walken voice after we just got a Super Bowl commercial about his own voice. So it's like, and it's just like, it's hard for me to buy him as this all-encompassing evil emperor who basically was a part of the massacre of the Atreides. He sent the Harkonnens in with his army, and it just kind of felt like he was just kind of a doddering old fool with like his daughter following him around, telling him to do stuff. And the accent killed me. It really. It's not an accent. It's not his accent. It's his voice. But it's just like I never really bought it. That was the one big thing, and he's kind of the center of the antagonists for this movie, and I never quite bought it.
They don't use him a whole bunch. I bet you he probably has screen time of like total 10 minutes. You know,
but it works better in the first one where we never saw the Emperor, and it's
true. Yeah, we didn't see the Emperor in the first one,
and I get you have to see him, but in that one at least it's like okay, we see the Harkonnens who are like these disgusting, like the whatever the Baron who's like sleeping in oil baths or whatever, and has this crazy flying kind of worm contraption thing on him, and it's like, so if that's this evil guy here, like imagine what the fucking Emperor's got to be, and then you go to it, and it's like, oh, it's Christopher Walken in a robe.
Yeah,
that's it. And there's nothing to it. Even at the end of the movie, like they don't give a fuck about him. They come in, they kill the Baron, and then they're just like, yeah, just go put him in a cell or something. We don't even have to think about you. Like, how did the Harkonnens not kill Christopher Walken 5 years ago?
Yeah,
how is he able to run all these royal families? He just doesn't really. I never quite got the gravitas or like any of the malice or anything from him, and
we need a prequel movie that explains everything about the Emperor.
Yeah, I just wonder. I don't know. And a lot of these, other people are famous actors and famous roles, but they are able to blend. It's like Dave Bautista. I don't really think Dave Bautista every time I see him. Austin Butler, I can barely see.
That was Elvis, but that was like he definitely sounded completely different.
A lot of these people are able to meld into their roles. Even Rebecca Ferguson, like I wasn't thinking there's Rebecca Ferguson, the lady from Mission Impossible. I was like, there's that crazy freaking mom lady who's like starting this whole religious war to get her son to be in charge. So yeah, that was kind of the one thing holding me back a bit from really going super hard beyond on this movie. I ended up giving the first one an 8 out of 10, and I'm kind of also stuck there for this one. I want to see it again to see if it can quite get there, but also there wasn't like a big emotional moment that got to me. Like I think maybe would have sent it over the top. Like a lot of these movies, like if I cry in a movie,
the emotional one in the first one that got you.
No, but it didn't feel like there needed to be because, like I said, it was all set up. Like and there was some stuff like Oscar Isaac's unfortunate end was kind of tough to go with, and Duncan Idaho, or like some characters dying or situations, but I felt like I was supposed to have like a big moment, especially at the end there where he like proposes his hand in marriage and leaves Zendaya, and it's like part of that I'm kind of there with
I'll love you for as long as I live, and then immediately says I'm going to take this woman's hand in marriage,
which I feel like was like, how did she not think that was going to happen? Like I don't know. He said it in the first movie, and she wasn't there to hear that, but it did seem like what he's got to do here, right? Like, right? Kind of.
Yeah, kind of put the kibosh on everything by marrying her and kind of take it over. Yeah.
Usually it'll just happen if a movie can just organically kind of make me tear up. Usually I'm like, okay, that's a top tier kind of movie, and this one didn't quite get there, and it had the Christopher Walken thing, so I'm a little bit on the fence in those elements, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I would. So I've been on Instagram lately, and I follow this one profile, whatever, and they usually bring up actors and things like that. And Bryan Cranston talked about it. It might have actually been on Hot Ones too, and then they took that clip. But
he would have been a better.
About how in film, when you want to evoke emotion out of the audience, you don't want to have the actor necessarily show that emotion, but maybe fighting that emotion, and then it overcomes on the audience more than anything.
Sure.
And I don't know if, like, I'm not saying it needs to be in every movie, but when you talk about the lack of emotional connection or what you were just talking about. Like, I see that there wasn't that type of moment. Like, the most emotional part literally was him saying like, "Hey, I love you until the day I die," yada yada yada, and it really wasn't all that emotional.
There's
At
like the
least I didn't
closing of
feel like
or
that was
something.
very like heartwarming or touching or however you want to say it.
No,
It
because he'd
really
already kind
invoked
of,
that type of feeling.
and they had already kind of been moving apart for a bit
Yep.
because he'd already like embraced this. He really leaned in once he decided, okay, you want me to do this, I'll do it. Like
Yeah.
immediately, something flipped, and he walked into that big meeting with everyone, and he was like, "Yeah, who you
I'm the
guys
guy.
ain't shit. You
Yeah.
can't do shit. I'm the best. Listen to me." And I was like, whoa, where did this come
That was
from?
like a
Okay,
complete 180 from what he'd been doing the entire
yeah.
movie.
There may be a little bit of an escalation there that we
Yeah.
didn't quite get as well, but yeah, I don't know. It was a very fun movie. His world building was still great. That whole scene where his mom goes to the lady and they show you how like that blue juice is extracted, where they have the little sandworm
Yeah. Yep. And
like
they drown
touches it
it
and then
and
drowns it and then sticks the thing in. I was like, this is fascinating. But then there's the scene where they're riding the sandworm and then there's 50 people on the sandworm, including her in her little like travel case, and it's like, how the fuck did they get on the worm? I I
well,
understand you don't want to know that and you
I
can't, but
understand one person jumping on a
that
worm, but how did the group of 50 get on the back of the worm?
I don't. Yeah, do they like pull it over and stop at a bus stop and then
Well,
get
I will
somebody else?
say
Everybody just on the dune and they fall and just grab on. Like,
that one worm at the end of the first one did kind of just stop and talk to Timothy Chalamet. So maybe they do have the
that,
ability to talk to the worm after a bit, or maybe
that felt
Timothy is
that
just.
felt like a very specific thing to him, like more so than that felt like a "I'm a chosen one" moment
But
more than anything.
they even said that like that worm was called for, not summoned
Yeah,
with the pounding. It was called for. So
I thought
that makes me
I
think
thought
that they have some type of communication, at least enough to bring somebody along.
I thought they did call for that worm with the pounding, like Johnny's did that. And then they were surprised when it showed up, and well, it didn't attack him, and that's when they were like, "Oh, maybe he is a bit of," because they were like, "Oh,
Oh,
the worm
I
bodied
thought
up,"
they had
and
summoned him
I
in that
don't
one, so I might have misseen that scene then. But
know.
I thought they had like just summoned it. I didn't realize they were pounding the ground or the sand or whatever. I didn't see
I thought
that.
so, but I can't quite recall. But there doesn't seem to be any way you could get 50 people on there right away
Yeah,
that
that seems a
easily.
little bit far
And
fetched.
I was even at the time, I was like, okay, I'm all right if this is what you need to do with your story to have people go south and
That's
whatever.
how they get through the
Sure,
sandstorms. Yeah.
I'm fine with it, but I did absolutely flag it. Like, come on,
How do we
okay.
all get on there, guys? Come on, come on.
I don't. I didn't. Yeah, I don't quite understand. But yeah, I enjoyed it for the most part. I want to see it again in theaters. I think because it does feel like a big theater movie as well. And I
Yeah,
didn't
but
see.
say that this is a movie you want to see in
Oh yeah,
theaters.
the first one I saw on TV, so I feel like I got to see this one at least twice in actual
Yeah,
theater.
yeah, I hear you.
It's warranted. But yeah, and I hope they make another. I will say.
I'm sure they
Uh,
will. I mean, it'd be pretty heartbreaking to anybody that likes this franchise right now to see one and two and then not get a third
like
because
they
they
kind
kind of
of, but
it
not
falls off
really.
at the end though, where it's just like kind of leads right into what will be a part three.
Yes,
Um,
it is very much like, and now the Clone Wars have begun. So like, you can't
exactly.
end after
You can't
Clone
just
Wars.
like end there. You know, like
Yeah,
I
you
mean, they
could,
could.
you
It is
couldn't.
Hollywood. I'm assuming they could make a movie and then just scrap it for tax
And
purposes.
like
Nothing is beyond them now. But you know,
this small loop is closed. Like he got revenge for his family, took over now, whatever. But I don't know. And I will say, I looked into a couple of YouTube videos of like what is the full storyline of the story. It gets fucking way crazier. Like
oh, I'm
the
sure.
stuff that's in here so far is like pretty tame compared to like where this story ends up going in the next. I mean, the way the books are laid out, apparently, it's like and we start hopping generations and thousands of years pretty quickly here.
Oh
So
shit. Okay.
uh, if we're going to the end of the whole series, but I don't think this third
How many
movie will be
books
that.
of Dune are there?
I believe.
And they're only
I mean,
adapting the first book for these movies, right?
there's like six or something, but only like
Six
three
of
of
these
them have.
books.
But only like three of them have this Paul guy. I'm pretty sure. After this third one, I'm pretty sure they just start like jumping through
Information.
the timeline and going way into the future, and then by the end of it, they're at like I don't even know. Like they're so far in the future, and
It's no
the
longer year
characters,
10,191.
yeah, the characters that were described were like, I don't know. They talked about how Duncan Idaho, the guy that Jason Momoa played in the first one.
Yeah.
In the book, apparently, he is like resurrected hundreds of times, and like can't die and keeps coming back. He's one of the characters
that would fit into Paul's visions, right? He sees his brother after we
Yeah.
already saw him die.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like at the end of whatever the whole book series is, one of the only characters left is Duncan Idaho because he's just like this resurrected zombie hundreds and hundreds of times. It gets very strange. There's some character who's like the grandson of Paul, who is like half worm and ends up living like hundreds of years and can see the future. It gets weird. Like it gets absolutely crazy. So I don't think we're gonna get that far, but yeah, just a couple of the tidbits we got on this, I was like, okay, yeah, pregnant lady and her pregnant baby talking to her. This is pretty normal. Yeah, this is not as weird as it gets. Okay, so it can get kind of wild. I'm very curious to see how far. That's why Christopher Walken showed up, and I was like, this is not doing it for me. This is not.
Well, it doesn't sound like you'll be making it much past this movie, anyways.
No, and I don't think. I mean, you don't talk about unfilmable. If these first three are unfilmable, I don't know what the hell the rest of it is, and there's not really like a coherent character or story or time even. There's no way you could really do it at that point, and it sounds like it gets pretty all over the place. So
it'd be a little bit different than I feel like with Star Wars, where like you made such a big jump to the Rey series. Like, granted, you still had Han Solo pop up and whatnot, but like you're adapting a new character, you have to bond with this new character in a short amount of time, and like I feel like that's what those later books or what this is far out movies could be. It's one of those probably more of a gamble once you finish this trilogy, because how much is it really embraced by everybody? Like everybody that likes Star Wars, I don't know if everybody likes Dune. Like the fan base isn't the same. Like
that's why it's the Star Wars for adults. It's like this is different. This is this hero's journey. It would be Luke being like, I don't want to fucking do that. If I do that, I'll end up killing thousands of stormtroopers. I don't want that blood on my hands.
That's not like kill my nephew who's trained in Jedi. What?
And the religious zealots who believe in the Jedi will overtake everything and will start a holy war. It's like they don't really go that far with the fun little Star Wars.
Isn't that why he kind of stops teaching? He's like, creates division. I don't know.
In a way, rule of two.
What else kind of stood out to you for that movie? Do you have any other final thoughts for Dune 2?
No, that was a lot of it. I will say, Denis Villeneuve still has not made a bad movie for me. This is great, and his sense of scale is like kind of the thing, and his believability with the way he does a lot of his.
You're talking like pictures and effects and everything else,
like just like how big a thing is, like I don't know, the size of the worms, and like actually making me feel like this is a thing. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just a big CGI thing coming across the screen. At no point did I feel like that. Basically, the whole time I was like, how'd they get that shot of the giant worm in the sand? They just find one of the. I don't understand. So it looked like flawless the way he kind of mixes like physical stuff with actual CGI, and then the scale of it, because like the scene where he rides the worm for the first time, and it comes and of course they're all like, "Oh my god, it's the biggest one I've ever seen!"
Yes,
yeah. But then when he falls down and it's like chaos, and then he grabs it, and they're like, it's like it has like real purchase to it, like this little weird.
Yeah, I thought that was well done. Yeah, like it looked like cool effects.
Like air start like coming out of little holes in the worms. It's like there's clearly like kind of some kind of biology thought out about that, and there's like a very physical thing. He's holding on to whatever, like a carapace or some kind of crusty looking outside, like that. They did a flawless job of making everything feel.
Did you want to know what
like
the worm reminded me of? And you're probably laughing at me when I say this. The graboid from Tremors.
Tremors! I said Tremors 100%.
Yeah, like that's what that worm reminded me of. Even the same like material. If you remember any of the close-ups from Tremors movies, it almost looks like the same material.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's probably updated and whatnot, but like it gave that same feel. It
Yes.
gave off realistic vibes to it.
If you're gonna make a sandworm, you're gonna reference Tremors.
You
Like that's
have to.
just what you gotta go back to the basics. That's the best that there is.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kevin Bacon was an on-set, person making sure everything looked right, and I appreciate that.
I'm glad you kind of thought the same thing that I did on that one because
There was one action scene where like a worm busted through like a dune, and I was like, Tremors.
right through the wall.
Came right into my head. We'll go right to the cliff edge, and then it just shoots out the cliff and goes all the way down. That's a great movie too. That's right up there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. A lot of dense lore. I'm excited to see if they do another one, but I'd also be happy if Denis Villeneuve has now been doing Dune movies for like 5 straight years. I'd love another just kind of original movie by him. And he talked about
he takes a break and just like, hey, we'll make Dune 3. It'll just be 5 years down the road. We're busy with films.
I heard a comment from him where he was basically like, I might come back to this because so maybe we get a new Villeneuve movie, and then he comes back and does. I think it's called Dune Messiah. And apparently, there's a time jump in
the third one, Dune Messiah.
I think that's what the next book is called. So, and that's the name I've seen floated a couple times, which that fits in well with this whole.
Wait, so I thought Dune, like the movies or whatever, was just based on the first book. It's like Dune. Okay, so like Dune Messiah is still technically in that book, or Dune Messiah is its own book.
New book.
Okay, so the first 2 movies were possibly that first book. I'm just trying to understand and grasp.
No, they are just, and the David Lynch movie was just this first book in one movie.
Yeah, they crammed it all into one. Yeah, I remember that.
Let me see if I can look up what these are.
Speaking of the mic right now, it sounds very Harkonnen-esque.
Dune.
Okay, I got one more question for you.
Dune Messiah, Children of Dune, God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, Chapter House: Dune.
Those are the 6 books or whatever.
It seems like it. And then there's some other stuff. There's a lot of other random stuff after that. I don't think we'll get past Dune Messiah. Probably 1969. There was some point I had on the end of that. Oh, I don't know. Apparently there's a time jump between this and the next book, so if he did take a couple of years and then come back to it, that might end up helping it.
You get everybody that looks a bit older and can play the actual character and everything.
Kind of like what I was hoping might happen with like A Last of Us 2. It's like, take a break, come back. This story needs time to marinate anyways. So good time. I landed on an 8 out of a 10 for now. We'll see if it gets to a 9 at some point.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it was a solid 7.5, 8 out of 10. For somebody who hadn't really gotten into the Dune lore or anything like that before watching the first one, literally 48 hours before seeing the second one, I was pleased with what I saw. I mean, I thought, and don't take this the wrong way, like I knew it was a long movie going in, and I figured it wasn't going to be a lot of action in that first one. I was fully expecting to fall asleep at some point because I tried to watch it one time prior, and then Erin fell asleep, and then I was like, well, if she fell asleep, I'm not going to continue watching this movie because then she's going to ask 100 questions about it, and we're going to have to go back and watch it anyway. So I just decided to stop there. So actually watching it all the way through and getting into the world of Dune, I was entertained. I was engaged. But yeah, it immediately made me think of a lot of real world connections and what's going on, and
it's there.
But no, I enjoyed it. That's all I got.
So, last thing, some of my favorite stuff was Javier Bardem was like kind of comical in this. Every time like he would yell out like "Lisa Loma Gaib," because there was a couple moments where I forget what specifically it was, but he was like things weren't quite going how he thought they would go. Maybe it was the sandworm sequence. He was like, "Oh, it's not really working." And then, like, as soon as Paul, like, did the thing right or nailed it, they, like, cut to Javier Bardem, and he was like, yes! It's like I called it!
Validated.
He was so ready to jump on it as soon as it went right. There was a tinge of comedy to that, to me, that still kind of worked. So, I thought he was quite good. Also, don't understand why the rules with the water of their body, where they were, like, I thought a lot of that was really cool, where they're, like,
suck the water out of the body, and
they killed a bunch of Harkonnens and they suck all the water out of them and reuse it. But then they bring Jamis back and they suck all his water out. and they pour it in this giant lake of water, and they're like, no one touches that. It's like,
because he was a Fremen, so I feel like in their religion, if you die and you believe in the holy of things and all that other stuff, I feel like that's when your body gets re-released back into that water as the holy water, whatever, because you followed them. Where the Harkonnens, they were bad people, they don't really care, they can use that as for sustenance.
In my head, I just would have thought like it's like a, I don't know, like a recycling thing almost. Like his water goes back into all of us and continues on, and it's just crazy to me that they're very specific. Like they're like, don't vomit, don't sneeze, don't let any of that go. Oh, but this giant pool of water, yeah, nobody would ever drink that.
Well,
it's like, what?
Dude, religion makes us do crazy things.
Sure.
You know,
it's
like,
holy water.
And that's kind of that's. I didn't have a problem with that in real time because that's kind of how my mind just thought of it, was because he was a Fremen, he was in that, and I'm just using this word, I don't mean it in a bad way, he's in that clan, that group, whatever.
Sure.
You know, that
at the time
aspect, he's a part of them, so he needs to put his body back into where he came from, where Harkonnens were bad people. They can use their what is now wasted water on people who don't believe in what they believe in and refuel themselves, or because I never actually saw them drink the water. I don't know what they do with it, but
I would assume it goes into however their water system works. I was just trying to find the line because it's cool if you spit at somebody, like that's really cool, but if you throw up, that's not cool. But if you die, we're not going to use that water. But if they die, we'll use that water. So I don't know. I'm just fucking around for the most part here. But
and I think part of the don't cry or don't vomit, I think that also falls into the part of like who it was for. Like she was going to vomit because she watched him take the water out of Jamis or whatever. And same with the tears. She sees all the bodies or all the souls that are technically in that pool. So it's like, oh, I'm crying. I'm overworked with emotion. It's like, no. This is what we do. Like, this is part of our religion. It's not an emotional thing. It's not supposed to be bad in that way. And I think that's mainly why, both those instances were times when there was stuff that was happening to the Fremen people compared to, Harkonnen or people outside of their religious group.
That's a good point. Yeah, and it was interesting that they had, like, even factions within the Fremen. Like, Zendaya and all of her friends were like, these guys are crazy. This is not...
Well, yeah, that goes to the north and the south. I like...
Yeah. And then at the end, she, like, just goes back in the desert. She's like, I don't want anything to do with any of this shit. Yeah. I'm curious, like, I don't really know. I mean, obviously there's this big war they can do for the next movie. That'll be a lot of it. But, like, I'm fascinated. Like, is Zendaya in the next movie? What is her role there? Like, are they... Is he still on Iraq?
Becomes an old faction that, she
then fights back.
Secret agent or something. I don't know. I've never read the books. I have no idea.
Maybe she'll have to kill him at the end of the last one, and that'll be the big emotional payoff.
That'll be it. Like to stop the Holy War, she has to be the one to kill him. I don't know.
That would probably get me. I feel like that happened in Star Wars a couple times too, probably. But some kind of Anakin thing somewhere. But yeah, all right.
Star Wars is Star Wars playing off of Dune, since Dune was created in 1965 and Star Wars wasn't made until like 1970 something?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are elements. Star Wars is nothing if not famous for playing off of elements of other things.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like the Tarantino of sci-fi movies. It just pulled a bunch of stuff from other things and made it into the big popular version of it. So we'll see. But yeah, Dune 2, pretty good. Intrigued by Dune 3, although it may be a while, but hopefully they make enough money to at least have the chance to do it, because there's more story to be told.
I think even if they fall a little bit short, they might scale back on pricing the stuff, but there's enough people that want to go see it that they probably would make a third, but scale back how much money they put into it. I wouldn't be shocked by that. Usually that's not how it works in the movie world, but I think if you find a successful enough franchise that people want to go see, that you'd be willing to take that gamble, maybe take a little less money to put into the movie, but like I would trust Dennis to do whatever he wants after these last two films,
and the way the momentum that this one has, I think it's going to make a ton of money, especially for this year. So it's off to a pretty damn good start.
Any final thoughts for this episode of Sportslandia?
We got the worst running back signed today.
Yeah. Not sounding great. Aaron Jones out. Josh Jacobs in at Green Bay. A lot of
Aaron Jones.
Yeah. We will we've been doing this about every 2 weeks lately. We might come back next week. It is tournament time. Maybe just do a little
Ooh,
brief look,
bracketology.
some predictions on the NCAA tournament since Selection
Sure.
Sunday will be coming up in
Yeah.
6
Can
days.
Caitlin Clark win it all? Will South Carolina win? What's going on with LSU? Oh, are you talking men?
Oh, boys, but yeah.
I guess we can talk about the boys too.
We can even talk about both. Heck, let's do the NIT while we're at it, baby.
Well, okay.
Uh, No, but that is the wrap up for this episode of Sportslandia. That's Ray Bradley. I'm Brian Sly. Thanks for tuning in for this riveting episode, Dune 2, and recapping, I should say, the early parts of the NFL free agency. I'm
Breaking
Brian
news.
Mike, and thanks for tuning in for Sportslandia on the Next Professional Athlete.
What's that thing he does with the knife?
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe they
I don't know what he
break
does
and
like that.
split or something like that.